he's been immaculate. You know, life is coming quick for him. He's gone from, there was a point where fans didn't even know if he'd get a chance to be heralded as one of the best centre-backs in the Prem and the world, and Real Madrid talks and whatnot. Ultimately, I think he's down by the high standards he set. And like you said there, you know, it's like a leveler. It's like a reminder, especially in modern football, that he's only 23, or better yet, just turned 24. But yeah, man, I think Saliba's been good. Give the man a new deal. There used to be a time we would have prayed for one of Timber or Saliba or Magalhaes during this Emirates period, and we've got them and more. So I'm all happy. Bro, it's amazing. It's amazing, man. Like, big up Saliba, man. Just signed that new deal, man. Really. Hey, you're right. As we close up here, I got a couple of things to ask you. Yeah, obviously we've lightly touched on Gyökeres and Šeško, and obviously we were at this point where we're led to believe, you know, we're deliberating in relation to what direction to go to. Which one would it be for you? And I remember you said at the beginning of the stream that you have concerns over both. What would they be as well?
So I lean slightly towards Gyökeres because I think that he's ready now to come in and impact the team, just because he's at a different stage in his career. He scores goals for fun, okay, albeit in a weaker league, but he does score goals. He's got that habit, and I really think he is, in a lot of ways, what we're missing. I love the way that he runs channels. I love the way that he pulls people out of position. I love that he's got those battling qualities as well. I think he's just a bit more ready. And I think if you're looking at medium to long term, there's no question about it. Šeško is the guy that you go for. But we're looking at tomorrow, not the day after, not next week, not the week after. We've got to focus on what's going to get us over the line tomorrow, because we've come so far in this project. We can't afford, in my opinion, to keep kicking the can down the road. So
time to pick the fruits now of our labor.
Exactly. So I do lean towards Gyökeres out of the two. Having said that, I don't have a problem if we go out and sign Šeško if we think that's the right one. But what I'm slightly concerned by is that there's no guarantee, in my opinion, that any of them are going to lift the level of the starting 11 straight away. Now, they lift the level of the squad, which in turn might help us get over the line. You don't know. But, for example, if you bring in Benjamin Šeško, I can see a world in which he shares that role with Kai Havertz for the first 6 to 9 months. And that's fine with me, because I quite like Kai Havertz. And I think he brings a lot to the team. But that's going to just create noise and frustration among certain sections of the fan base who are going to say, you spent 70 million quid on a striker and Kai Havertz is still starting up front for us. Because in my opinion, there's a lot of people that can't see what is staring them right in the face, which is that, okay, he's not the most clinical out-and-out number 9 on the planet, but he's a very, very effective player, Kai Havertz. And if seeing us without him versus with him over the last few months didn't convince you of that, then I don't know what you were watching.
We need him as part of the squad. There's no way around 100%. It. Whether people like him or not, we're at. He's one of our more consistent players and reliable players, which is maybe damning on the club. People could argue. You can't really point that to Kai, if I'm honest. And there's no way around it. We have missed it. We've missed several players, and we've missed Kai, and he's not going anywhere. He's on big money. The manager likes him. The team likes him. I actually like Kai as well. Do I think he should be like our starter if I was saying Arsenal's strongest 11 if we want to win the champs? No, but if this season hasn't showed anyone anything, you need a squad, whether it's injuries, loss of form, dynamics. The players that start might not be doing it. The players that come off the bench might not. We need that. So it is what it is. And I'm with you with Gyökeres. I feel for me with Gyökeres, it's left field of what we try to do of the players of tomorrow and all of those kind of things. Yeah. What you see is what you get. I know he's 27, and in football terms, people look at you like you're 37, but he's ready right now. And I think it's unfair to Gyökeres. I'm sorry, to Šeško, but he's probably a signing many fans would have been okay with, or like you said, certain sections 2, 3, maybe even 4 years ago. When it's like we need to win now and tomorrow, I do feel those kind of pressures will be put on Šeško. Obviously, everybody has pressure, but he's still developing. Now, with Šeško, I just wonder, like you said, you're rotating in and out with Kai. How long is it going to take you to become that out-and-out number 9, if that is the case? And, you know, they clearly believe in Šeško. They've been looking at him for the best part of a year. These reports actually say he's more expensive than Gyökeres. So there's pros and cons to anything. But whether we go for Šeško, whether we go for Gyökeres, which both present risks, and we don't know. Gyökeres might sign be the best thing since sliced bread. He might sign be a flop. The same goes for Šeško. We've also seen the other side, Harry, in which when we don't do anything, it's going to get to a point. So it'd be interesting, man. Do you have any concerns about Gyökeres per se?
Yeah, I mean, the natural concern is everybody's talking about the 39 goals he scored in the Portuguese league in 33 games, but how does that translate in terms of the Premier League?
What's the exchange rate?
Yeah, what's the exchange rate? Exactly. That's a great way of putting it. Because, you know, often we see players in other leagues literally rip it up, bring him into the Premier League. What does that exchange rate, as you put it, which I thought was brilliant, how does that look? Does he score 15 in the Premier League? In which case, we're moaning again because Kai Havertz can do that. Does he score 20 in the Premier League, in which we're going to that slightly next level? Does he score 25, in which case you're thinking, bloody hell, we've done a really great bit of business here. I just don't know how it's going to translate. I find it really, really difficult, and I have done for years, and I've always said this, to go by sort of numbers alone and how that will translate into another league and another team in a completely different environment. So it's a tough one, man. It's a really tough one.
It's a very tough one, man. And it is what it is. But and I'm also at the stage, Harry, as well, where we can talk about Gyökeres, we can talk about Šeško, we can compare both of them. But I'm at the point now, just get me another attacker, well, specifically a striker, and then like their pros and cons, just get them through the door, because we've been talking about this for a while now. So only time will tell. Do you have any confidence in us signing the Rodrigos of this world or the Anthony Gordons?
No, I just think they're deals that financially are beyond our reach. I think Rodrigo, especially. I think Xabi Alonso is going to come in. I'm sure. Look, every kid that grows up in South America or in the Latin world, they dream of playing for Real Madrid.
Yep.
And I aside from what Real Madrid want, I don't think Rodrigo will be willing to give that up without a fight. And I think with Xabi Alonso coming in, we got a problem, because he's probably had a positive conversation with him, probably feels like he's going to get the recognition that he deserves under Alonso, and probably will give it a season before deciding whether or not he wants to move on. I think that's bad news for us. I think the financials as well, they're hardly a club that need to sell, are they? So I think we're in a tough spot with Rodrigo. I just don't see it happening, to be honest.
I mean, it'd be a great player, it'd be a great dream. But like you said, whether it's the finances, whether it's Xabi Alonso, whether it's the Club World Cup, whether it's a World Cup to consider next year, sometimes, as you know yourself, leaving or staying at a club can affect your form and whatnot. It is what it is, man. Where are you at with Nico Williams and Anthony Gordon?
I like Anthony Gordon, but financially, again, I think because it's Newcastle, you're going to find it incredibly
They're going to play hardball.
And they're going to play hardball, and you're going to pay well over the odds. We know that they have a particular issue with Arsenal behind the scenes. They feel like Arsenal have been one of the clubs at the front of stopping the likes of Saudi-owned Newcastle and some of the other really wealthy state-owned, I don't know if I can say that, clubs. Arsenal are at the forefront of trying to stop those clubs essentially running away with it. So I think we're always going to have trouble negotiating with them. But I do like Anthony Gordon as a player. Nico Williams, I've just read a report now that Athletic Bilbao are trying to extend his contract, which will see his release clause go up even more. I was already skeptical about paying 58 million. The minute that goes higher, I'm not interested anymore.
And his wages.
Yeah, and his wages are crazy. They're looking to pay him 10 million a year. I saw him in the flesh at the Euros, and I was really impressed. And I came back from the Euros telling everyone, this guy's a player. But it just goes to show you should never sign players based on international tournaments, because this season has been really underwhelming and disappointing. So, again, look, we talk about the point of needle moving. Is Williams that much better than a Trossard or Martinelli? I don't think he is. I think Rodrigo is, but I think that's out of our reach. So I think when you get to this stage in your development, it's the hardest stage to be at, because the pool of players that can actually improve you just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And so it becomes harder and harder to strengthen.
Like you said, and the costs that come with it. Now, I know there's PSR and wages and all of that to consider, but it's one where I'm happy I'm not Arteta or Andrea Burt or anyone in the scouting or recruitment staff, because do you find the stars of tomorrow or find unpolished diamonds like a Marmoush or better yet a Salah? Do you pay the going rate for someone like Rodrigo and the finances and the knock-on effects for your budget? I don't know. One person that, to be fair, because when me and you have both said it now, Nico Williams, Rodrigo, Gordon, we've spoken about the finances. Now, this guy, Sane, will probably be on big wages, but it will be quote unquote a free transfer. What do you make on Sane? Because we're getting linked again.
I like Sane, but I like him as an addition. Like, if we go and sign a striker and a winger, and then we bring in Sane on a free as well to just bolster that, then I'm all good with it. But I don't like Sane as one of the primary options. And it's not about the player necessarily. I think he's very talented. I think he contributed a lot for Bayern last season, having not started that many games, coming off the bench. I think he got 11 goals, 6 assists, something like that in 30 appearances, 15 of which were from the bench. So I think he can clearly impact games. That can help us. It can. But he's got a patchy injury record, always has. which concerns me about him. What's the motivation level like at this stage in his career? Not
29.
sure exactly. And I think we're also scarred by the poor signings of Willian and Raheem Sterling, especially Sterling, a player that Arteta had a relationship with and thought could come in and aid us. That was an unmitigated disaster. So the idea of going down that route again and thinking that that's the way we're going to move forward, I think it's an idea that will frustrate a lot of people. So I'm not too keen on Sane unless it's in addition to the bulk of our business.
I think the biggest point you said there for me is the injury, the motivation. Like, I don't know him. I don't want to do the whole money grabber thing. But if you're on big money, you're injured, you've won stuff as well. And you could caveat that with, you know, when you like Real Madrid, for example, they win the Champions League 9 times out of 10, typically, not this year, but they're hungry and whatnot. I just look at Sane. You've been there, kind of done it where the Premier League's concerned. You're 29. We're at a different kind of stage. Even if, like you said, if he comes in as a buffer, how much of a motivation is that? Because you know you're just going to collect a pay packet. So it'd be interesting. But again, bro, I'm happy I'm not Arteta or Roberta. What do you feel for Nwaneri in the short to medium term? Because obviously Arteta spoke he could play up front. I would have liked to see him play an Odegaard's role off the left just to get game time. He could play in the 8. Probably seen as backup for Saka at the moment. Like, what do you think of him in the short medium term? Because we want him to sign a new deal. There's little rumblings he's unhappy, etc. allegedly.
In the long term, I think he ends up playing in a more central position, but obviously he has that capability of playing from the right. And that's why we talk about versatility within the group, don't we?
Yeah.
A lot. And that's another example of it. I think, look, I don't think that he's unhappy. I don't think there's a problem. From what I've heard, he's been nursing a bit of an injury, which is why his minutes were limited at the end of the season. They didn't feel it was worth taking the risk. He's still growing. He's still developing. He's made that jump up from, you know, being a part of the squad, being in the Premier League 2 to now playing the men's game, which is completely different, not just physically, but mentally, the pressure that you're under, the scrutiny, everything is different, isn't it? So I'm not too worried about him. I think he's still on the right path. I think he's still going to turn out to be a great player. But I think the idea is for him to play slightly further infield as he develops and as he bulks up a little bit physically. So I'm not stressed about this one. I think he'll be fine. I think he knows that as well. And I think it's all pretty relaxed around him.
I think it's that age-old thing, or better yet, I say age-old thing, kind of this new kind of thing in football, in that if you're good at 16, 17, 18, you're meant to just play all the time. Everything's amazing. Yeah. The minute you're not playing, get rid of him. I'm sure, you know, naturally, I want players to be disappointed not to play and whatnot. And as you said, he's nursing an injury. But I'm sure if you asked him this time last year what his ambitions would be, everything he's achieved personally at this point at Arsenal, he probably would have sat there and said, I couldn't dream of this. Like you said, you've gone from being on the peripheral, that weird kind of grey area where you're part of the first team, but you're not part of the first team. Yeah. When he played West Ham away and Brentford away, you made your debut, but you weren't really part of it. Now you're part of it. Now just go and give the manager a headache. So I've got nothing to fear about. We've spoken about Zubimendi. Last thing as well, Thomas Partey's been in talks with Barcelona. Do you see him staying? Do you think it's right to give him a new deal with his age and maybe the wages and all that?
I think it's, if the terms are right, then I'm all for it. You know, I don't want to tie yourself down to a 2-3 year deal. If it's a 1 year plus 1 with an option, for example, I'm fine with that. And I think it will help Zubimendi bed in. I think not having that pressure of coming in and being the guy and having Partey to share the role with, a bit like when we're talking about Šeško, we're saying actually it probably benefits him that if he does come in, he's got Kai Havertz there to share that burden and responsibility with. I think the same is applicable to Zubimendi and the relationship he could potentially have with Thomas Partey. So
a good point.
I think he's obviously open to the idea of staying. It worries me a bit that Barcelona have come in, but are his representatives using Barca as a vehicle to try and you know, help their negotiation? Maybe. Look, what it's going to cost you to go out and get another midfield player, which I think we definitely have to do, by the way, if Thomas Partey goes, is going to be way more than what you're going to give him in a 2-year contract. So I think to find a player of that quality isn't easy. I've always got that thing in the back of my mind. He's had one good season fitness-wise. Is he due a bad one now? That is obviously a thing, but you know, I think we should try. If we can do a deal that works for everyone, then keep hold of him because he's an asset.
I think you're bang on the money. I think, you know, like you said there, crucially, you know, no disrespect to Thomas Partey, but how many times do you see a player playing out their skin? Last year, the deal, in Partey's case, ever present. You then don't sign a new, you then sign a new deal and you kind of revert back to type. You made a great point in that, you know, how much is it going to cost you on top of everything else you're trying to do this summer in replacing Partey? And I share that sentiment. You definitely have to look to sign a centre mid. I know a lot of fans, yeah, if you went through the squad, there's many players that they would want to get rid of and bring in. We're not going to do all of that. So for me, keeping Partey kind of not parks off something, but it allows you to, okay, when you've done everything for this summer, now you begin the scouting for that centre mid either in the January period of 2026 or the summer or the summer of the following year. I want to keep Thomas. Arteta clearly loves him. You know, I don't think there's any other player with injury records like this that have Tommy that have played on a major basis that he likes. And if the man's comfortable, you know, let's give Berto all the hope he can. As you said, I don't know if the agents are playing games, but Barcelona and the attraction of playing for them and Hansi Flick, it is something to worry about. And we are getting to the stage now where are you going to sign or are you not? But like you said at the start of this, bro, it's like if you want to break away from football, you need to take it now, or if not, everything's dominated by these transfers, man. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. But I've taken up far too much of your time, Harry. It's been a fantastic chat. Let people know they can find you if I let you get out of here, my friend.
Thanks for having me, man. You can find me on the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast, man. We do a daily show. Go over and check it out, and on the usual places like X and Instagram and all of that as well. Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate it. Enjoyed the chat.
Minor, man. I've always got time for you, man. Me and you. I remember being on the front line where me and you were saying, you know what, Emre's not the guy, and we got absolutely pelted, but we won that.
Yeah,
Yeah, but we got killed for that, man. You was there with me. We was in the